Centuries ago, humanity depleted Earth's natural resources, leading to widespread chaos and conflict. To salvage what remained of civilization, the world's top scientists developed genetically engineered orchids that became the new energy source. However, even with this new energy, human conflicts persisted, prompting the creation of the transformation. At 16, every individual undergoes a transformative surgery, becoming their ideal flawless self. These transformed people, known as Pretties, live contently in the city, where peace reigns. Those who haven't yet undergone the procedure are called Uglies, and remain in Uglyville dorms. Tally eagerly anticipates becoming a Pretty, and often uses a mirror app to visualize her post-transformation appearance. Her closest friend, Peris, is older and will undergo the procedure the next day. They affectionately call each other Nose and Squint, nicknames from childhood. At night, they sometimes sneak to the bridge during curfew, using special glasses to watch the Pretties celebrating in the city. Tally will turn 16 in 3 months, but Peris is set for his transformation now. They have matching scars on their hands, promising not to let the surgeons remove them after becoming Pretties. Just then, a patrol drone approaches, forcing them to rush back to their dorms. The following day, during an assembly, Tally overhears other students talking about a mysterious place called the Smoke, supposedly a hidden refuge outside the city, led by someone named David. Though rumors say many escaped to the Smoke, most students doubt its existence. At that moment, a hologram of Governor Cable appears, delivering a speech about the importance of beauty and perfection. Afterward, everyone who has turned 16 is called forward. Tally says goodbye to Peris, telling him to meet her at the bridge in a month. Later that evening, she watches the fireworks over the city and reminisces about the day she met Peris. Her parents had just dropped her off at the dormitories, and Peris was behind her in line. They quickly bonded, exchanging nicknames and becoming best friends. Once, Peris accidentally cut his hand while taking a tablet from Tally, so she gave herself the same scar as a promise that they'd remain friends forever. As the days pass, Tally sticks to her routine of attending classes and looking at herself in the mirror. She often checks her interface ring for messages, but hears nothing from Peris. After a month, Tally uses her ring to hack open a window and leaves it behind since it has a tracker. She sneaks out and heads to the bridge, but Peris hasn't shown up. Worried, she climbs the bridge using a rope and dangerously moves beneath it until she reaches the city. Tally hides among the plants, but when a party guest drops a mask, she picks it up and puts it on. The mask projects a hologram over her body, making it look like she's dressed in an elegant gown. Now disguised, Tally enters the party, marveling at the grand decorations. Eventually, she spots Peris, who looks completely different and doesn't recognize her. Tally removes her mask and asks why he didn't come to the bridge. Peris explains that things have changed, and he no longer knows how to relate to her.
Your scar.
Just then, the security system detects her presence, forcing Tally to flee from approaching guards. She gets trapped on a balcony, but manages to steal a bungee jacket and jumps off. The fall is long, but the jacket allows her to bounce and land gently nearby. Tally then escapes the city by climbing under the bridge again. While doing so, she accidentally kicks a stone into the water, which alerts a drone that moves in to arrest her. At that moment, her classmate Shay appears and helps Tally escape by pulling her onto her hoverboard. The drone gives chase, but Shay is a skilled driver and loses it with sharp turns through the woods. Grateful for the help, Tally sneaks into the kitchen and steals some snacks for them. The girls bond over their shared experiences and talk about how hard it is to be left behind while all their friends have already turned 16. They discover they share the same birthday and are excited to have someone to become pretty with. The next day, Shay brings Tally a second hoverboard and tries to teach her to ride it, but Tally quickly falls. Later at school, Tally is surprised when some girls return a book to Shay. As books aren't common anymore, the girls are fascinated by the book's descriptions of survival in nature and wonder if that's what life in the smoke is like. Tally borrows the book, though she gets angry when the girls praise her for her stunt the previous night. Realizing Shay must have told them, she worries that she might be punished and denied the operation, but Shay reassures her that the system wants everyone to become pretty. As time goes by, Tally continues reading the book, but she still dreams about the operation. Shay keeps teaching her how to use the hoverboard, and in return, Tally uses her ring to hack for extra food. Tally shows Shay her pretty designs on the app, but Shay doesn't have an account and isn't excited about the operation at all. Eventually, Tally masters flying, and the girls enjoy using their hoverboards on daring ramps. When Tally returns the book to Shay, she mentions wanting to visit the beautiful nature it describes. Shay suggests that skipping the operation wouldn't be so bad, but Tally dismisses it as crazy. Shay then reveals a place called the Smoke, and takes Tally to the edge of the woods. Leaving their rings behind on some branches, they ride their hoverboards across the river and arrive at the ruins of an old city, where Shay introduces Tally to ancient things like roller coasters. In an abandoned building, Shay reveals that the smoke is real and that David will be arriving soon. She tells Tally she refuses to get the surgery and plans to leave that night, inviting Tally to join her. However, Tally declines, saying she wants to be pretty, not free. Upset, Shay gives her directions to the smoke in case she changes her mind, then leaves on her hoverboard, following the sign of David's fire. The next day, on Tally's birthday, she goes to the clinic for her operation, but when everyone else is called, she is left waiting. Eventually, a guard escorts her to Dr. Cable, who reveals that Shay is missing.
I'm Dr. Cable.
Tally insists she doesn't know anything, but Dr. Cable can see on the screen that her vitals indicate she's lying. Cable tells Tally that Shay is in danger because David has brainwashed her, and he's known for holding people against their will. When Tally continues to deny knowing anything, Cable sends her back to her dorm without performing the surgery. Later that night, Tally is startled when Peris shows up at her window. She explains what happened, and Peris suggests that she should tell Cable what she knows so they can finally be together. The next day, Tally is taken to Cable again, who claims David is developing a weapon to attack the city and needs Tally to infiltrate the smoke. Tally agrees to help, and Cable promises she'll get the surgery if she succeeds. Cable also gives Tally a special necklace, instructing her to activate it when she finds the weapon's location. Following Shay's directions, Tally rides her hoverboard along an old roller coaster for several miles. Eventually, she encounters a dam, falls into the woods, but is saved by a force field. She then finds abandoned train tracks, which she follows to reach the smoke. For several days, Tally survives in the wilderness, just like in the book, and starts to appreciate nature in a new way. She even climbs a mountain. At one point, she encounters a large gap in the train tracks over a chasm. Using the hoverboard, the daring jump, but the board shuts down mid-air. Tally falls quickly, but the hoverboard reactivates just in time, and she lands safely on the other side. She waits in a field of flowers as instructed. Meanwhile, Cable brings Peris to her office and reveals that he went to see Tally because she had asked him to. Peris admits that being back in the city made him feel clear-headed again. Cable then announces that a select few have been chosen for a new procedure, and Peris agrees to undergo the surgery for body enhancements. That night, Tally wakes up coughing and realizes the field is on fire. Unsure of what to do, a mysterious figure, David, suddenly arrives and rescues her. He scans Tally and her belongings for trackers, finds one in the hoverboard, and removes it. However, the scanner doesn't detect the necklace. At the same time, Cable's team gets alerted that the tracker has been removed, prompting them to send out a search team. In the morning, David and Tally arrive at a smoke outpost, where Tally reunites with her friends. Shay is thrilled to see her, but Croy remains suspicious. That night, the group sets up camp, and Shay asks about Tally's necklace. Tally lies, saying it was a gift from Peris. She is surprised to see Shay so happy despite what Cable had said, and tries to express her concerns, but Shay interprets this as an attempt to convince her to return to the city. After a brief argument, Tally agrees to give the smoke a chance. The next day, Tally learns that the smoke intentionally starts fires to burn the orchids because they are toxic and ruin the areas where they grow. Tally at first doesn't believe this, saying the orchids were part of a clean energy plan, but David explains that this is a government lie, and that the flowers are actually turning the planet into a wasteland. He invites her to join them on a mission to prove it, and although Croy objects, Shay vouches for her. The group uses an old helicopter equipped with solar panels to fly over areas where orchids once grew, now reduced to desert. Shay uses a flamethrower to burn as many orchids as possible. Suddenly, Croy's tablet detects someone approaching, so David lowers the helicopter to hide in the smoke. The movement loosens the rope holding Shay, causing her to fall. As Cable's scouts get closer, Tally ties a weighted bag to the rope and descends to find Shay. The helicopter begins to lose altitude, but Tally manages to locate Shay among the flames. When a scout nears, Tally throws the burning bag at him, allowing her and Shay to grab the rope and escape just as the scout approaches. After landing, Croy accuses Tally of leading the scouts to them, but Shay defends her, and David believes that anyone willing to risk their life for the smoke deserves a chance. That night, as the group camps again, Tally struggles to sleep, haunted by thoughts of how Cable trained her to manipulate the rebels. She takes a walk and accidentally sees David bathing in the river, retreating to her tent in embarrassment. The next day, Tally is blindfolded and taken to the smoke, where she finds a community thriving in harmony with nature. Although life there is harder than in the city, Tally admits that food tastes better when grown by hand. Even the elderly work, and instead of money, everything is shared or traded.
It's a safe house too. Tourmaline blocks are scanners.
Most importantly, everyone in the smoke is there by choice. The train tracks are being repurposed into tools, but they don't make any weapons since they're pacifists. One afternoon, Tally stumbles upon a strange door and tries to look inside, but Croy catches her and sends her away. Tally starts helping with the track work, tries spicy food for the first time, and joins in the dances around the fire. Later, David teaches her how to use a hunting crossbow, and they spend time together. Though it takes her a few tries, Tally eventually hits the target. On their way back, David reveals that he's never been to the city, as he was born and raised in the wild with his family. Tally is surprised by them, having barely known her own parents. David then gifts her a pair of gloves. Soon after, a smoke member returns from burning the orchids with a wound, reporting that the scouts are still around. She also notes that these scouts seemed faster and stronger than usual. Later, Shay notices Tally wearing the gloves and points out that it's significant. David made those gloves, and giving them to Tally means he has feelings for her. Shay tells Tally to make a decision and stop leading them on. The next time Tally goes for a walk with David, she mentions hearing rumors about a weapon that could destroy the city. In response, David takes her to a house far from the camp, where she meets his parents, Az and Maddie. They are former government cosmetic surgeons who became suspicious of some of the tests being conducted. Through their investigation, they discovered that the physical changes of the Pretties surgery were just a cover for brain modifications, which made people dull and slow under the illusion of happiness, so they could be easily controlled by the government. The surgery had also resulted in many deaths, a fact that had been kept secret. When Cable found out that Az and Maddie knew the truth, she stole their research. State workers like doctors were secretly given a cure to prevent the brain alteration so they could continue to think clearly while doing their jobs. David's parents chose to flee the city and age naturally in the wild. They've been working to recreate the cure, but there's a synthetic component they're missing, so they only have a base serum. This is the so-called weapon that could potentially disrupt the control the city has over its people. After learning all of this, Tally decides to stay with the smoke, throwing her necklace into the fire as a symbol of her choice. Tally tries to confess her past mistakes to David, but he reassures her that she's changed, and they share a kiss. Meanwhile, the necklace starts sparking in the fire. The next morning, city aircraft attack the smoke, and chaos breaks out as everyone tries to flee. Although the scouts fall into the traps set by the rebels, they're too fast and strong, and soon they overpower and capture everyone, including Shay. Tally and David manage to hide, but David wants to help. Tally convinces him to stay hidden, knowing the scouts are too powerful. They sneak to the area where the prisoners are being gathered, and Tally is heartbroken to see that Peris has become a scout. Az and Maddie are captured, and when Cable arrives, she demands to know David's whereabouts. His parents refuse to talk, so Cable orders Peris to kill Az. David and Tally rush to intervene, but they are too late. Cable then reveals that Tally has been working for her, causing the other smoke members to turn against her. Amid the commotion, Maddie secretly slips the serum into David's pocket. As Cable announces that everyone will be forced to undergo the surgery, Tally sets fire to the supply shack and escapes through a window. The fire causes an explosion, allowing David to escape as well. When a scout chases David, Tally manages to stop him with an arrow. Peris wants to join the chase, but Cable orders the scouts to retreat. Some scouts destroy Maddie's research and set the area on fire, while others load the prisoners into the aircraft. After they leave, David gathers what little supplies are left to start a rescue mission. When Tally approaches him to help, he attacks her in anger, but stops himself just in time. He tells her he no longer trusts her, but she argues that he needs her because she knows the city better than he does. Later in the city, Tally and David meet the students who had read Shay's book. Tally proves that the smoke is real by introducing David to them. She borrows an interface ring and asks them to gather as many kids as possible to create a distraction. Soon, a group of teenagers use their hoverboards to write "The smoke lives" in the sky, while Tally and David use hoverboards to sneak into the clinic after the aircraft leaves. They carefully sneak around, and Tally uses the ring to try to unlock a door, but it isn't a typical kitchen, so it doesn't work. Suddenly, a Pretty opens the door, and David immediately starts fighting him. After a few hits, David overpowers the Pretty and pins him against the wall, while Tally takes his ring. David then throws the Pretty into the corridor, and Tally locks the door. As the alarms go off, they find the cell and use the ring to free everyone. Tally realizes Shay is missing, and Croy reveals that she has already undergone the surgery. While most of the group escapes, David, Tally, and Maddie go looking for Shay. But when they reach the lab, it's too late. Shay has already become a pretty. Tally cries and apologizes, but Shay insists that she loves it. At that moment, Cable and Peris arrive and force the trio into the machines to undergo surgery. The process begins, but before the needles can start cutting, Smoke's helicopter appears outside, and Croy opens fire with a flamethrower. Cable and Peris are forced to flee, and the machines malfunction, stopping the procedure. The trio escapes, with Tally grabbing Shay and Maddie retrieving the needed component from a cupboard. They head to the roof and encounter Peris. Tally tries to reach him by using their old nicknames and pointing out that a shard of glass has given him his scar again. Peris gently touches Tally's face, but David misinterprets it as an attack and tackles him. Peris is too strong and overpowers David, nearly killing him. Just before the final blow, Tally uses a hoverboard to speed over and tackle Peris, causing him to fall off the edge. He hangs on briefly, calls Tally by her nickname, and then falls into a waterfall. Afterward, they escape on hoverboards and see the other teens crashing drones into each other in the sky. They hide in the abandoned city, and Maddie takes the serum from David's pocket to finish mixing the cure. However, she's unsure if it will work or cause harmful side effects to the brain. Shay refuses to take it, and Maddie refuses to force it on anyone, so Tally volunteers to be the test subject. She plans to surrender herself, undergo the surgery, and then take the cure, promising to signal if it works. As the aircraft and Cable approach, Tally says her goodbyes, letting the scouts arrest her. Sometime later, Tally is living as the perfect pretty in a luxurious apartment. She insists she loves her new life, but the scar on her hand reveals that she's still herself, secretly acting as a spy. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in next movie.